Hi everyone, thank you for taking the time to watch our presentation on the skills gap as it relates to adult and continuing education. Our group consists of myself, Autumn Chapoff-Lysecki, Valerie Cullen, and Ja'Cory Hawkins.
Hey everyone, as Autumn mentioned, my name is Ja'Cory Hawkins and I'll provide a brief introduction to the issues of the skills gap. So we are defining the skills gap as the training and retraining of adults within the education system, whether that be for degree granting programs or certificate programs. It's important because when educators are working with adult learners, it is important to understand what their goals are for the program and what type of things best benefit them. Understanding that this is a unique group of students, everything that will work for a traditional age college student might not work for a adult learner. It's a critical issue because adult learners are increasingly entering and re-entering the education system. And if educators don't have a baseline understanding of why they are entering the system and how to best benefit them, then they will fail them. Once again, things that work for traditionally aged college students, like simply going to class, might not work for adult learners. Adult learners tend to need a lot more experiential things. And then it relates with the adult and continuing education system because it goes hand in hand with it actually, because the skills gaps are usually what are directly motivating adult learners to enter the education system. So without the skills gap, this conversation wouldn't be nearly as big as it is. Now Autumn is going to further discuss some of the issues and challenges as they relate to the skills gap.
Thanks, Ja'Cory. As Ja'Cory mentioned, in this section, I will provide an overview of the issue of the skills gap and how the data supports the critical need for assessing and finding solutions to address this issue. According to Roy Maurer of the Society of Human Resource Management, a recent Manufacturing Institute report found that nearly 3.5 million U.S. manufacturing jobs will open over the next decade. However, an estimated 2 million of these jobs will remain vacant due to a workforce that does not have the skills necessary to fill these jobs, thus the issue of the skills gap. Additionally, the report predicts that over the next decade in the U.S. alone, it is estimated that approximately 39 to 73 million jobs could be taken out of the workforce due to a multitude of factors, including automation, technological advances, and market demands. Yet, only about 20 million of the workers from these positions would have the necessary skills, experience, and opportunities to shift their careers into similar occupations. This means that research estimates and predicts that as much as 1/3 of the U.S. workforce will need to be retrained for entirely new occupations in the very near future. These statistics demonstrate just how critical it is that we as a nation work to quickly and adequately address the growing challenges of our evolving occupational landscape, and how it is clear that we need to approach the development and education of our workforce in new and proactive ways. Now, Valerie will discuss how the issue of the skills gap directly relates to adult and continuing education.
Hello everyone, my name is Valerie Cullen. How does the skills gap relate to adult and continuing education, commonly known as ACE? First, andragogical methods need to be incorporated into the curriculum for ACE programs. This means instructors need to understand the needs of the adult learner and accommodate them as a non-traditional learner. Second, there needs to be modeling activities. Practice evaluations of these activities also within the curriculum. These activities and practice evaluations of new concepts needs to be presented without penalty in order to bridge the skills gap and allow for building skills as part of the educational process while new concepts are being learned. Studies have shown that at least 70% of adult learners have difficulty comprehending course concepts. Adult learners admitted to not being able to comprehend the concepts of their current courses in several studies. It should also be stressed that this should be interpreted as a problem with the current curriculum that higher education sets forth for adult learners and not the fault of the student. Finally, peer mentoring is also a means by which to address the skills gap. Studies have suggested that peer mentoring as a part of an andragogical curriculum installed on a permanent basis for transitional adult learners, can be a very productive and positive means to help resolve the skills gap issue academically. This also includes not just other non-traditional students as peer mentors, but building relationships with traditional students as well.
Thanks, Valerie. As with most issues, finding the resources and funding to address this issue is definitely a challenge. Additionally, at the very root of what the skills gap even is, I believe therein lies perhaps one of the largest overarching challenges, defining exactly what these skills are. Of course, it's fairly easy to recognize the very clear, tangible skills that are necessary in our economy, but I think where the larger challenge lies is in not only defining, but figuring out the most effective means by which to teach and develop the more abstract ones. Critical thinking and analytical thinking, leadership abilities, teamwork, and collaboration. These are just a few of the skills that employers have noted that are severely lacking in our current job force. Yet, defining ways to adequately teach and develop these skills in anyone, especially adults who have perhaps been out of school or training for a long period of time, is especially challenging. Another defining challenge that is unique to this issue is that the jobs in the trades and manufacturing industries that require very specialized, unique skill sets are not widely popular in an age where for such a long time it was, and largely still is believed, that obtaining a 4-year degree is the only manner by which to reach a successful career. Working to promote a better understanding of the requirements of these occupations and the benefits of pursuing these career paths will be instrumental in achieving successful growth in this job sector. Finally, in Mauer's 2018 article, he quoted Jonas Prising, a CEO from Manpower, as having explained that a big challenge surrounding this issue is how employers view their place in the equation, and he was quoted as saying that employers need to begin shifting their focus from reactive hiring to thinking of themselves as builders of talent. I think this leads into arguably the largest issue surrounding the resolution of the skills gap. That is, how necessary it is that a collaborative effort be made across many industries in order to get ahead of this issue. For example, higher education institutions will have to work together with industry leaders and build partnerships across corporate and nonprofits to effectively address all facets of the issue. It is clear from all the articles and research that approaching the skills gap from a siloed approach is not going to combat the larger societal issue of how the job market is evolving, the skills that are necessary, and the development and training that will be required. Now Valerie is going to touch on some of the innovations and solutions that are currently being used specifically within higher education to work towards overcoming some of these challenges.
As Autumn mentioned, I will now discuss a specific innovation that can be seen as a solution to the skills gap that is now being implemented in many higher education institutions to address this issue. There's a concerted effort to promote STEM programs, which is science, technical, engineering, and math courses, and CTE programs, which consist of career and technical education courses, and the availability of state and federal program funding for these programs. There are benefits to utilizing two-year colleges as a focus for these programs in addressing the skills gap in adult learning. Two-year colleges are very well positioned to address the workforce demand for these types of skilled positions because community colleges are the most inexpensive means by which low and middle income adults can retool themselves for higher paying jobs. Second, it is the means by which most low-skilled adult learners have an opportunity to receive training. Also, there is a high demand for STEM and CTE skilled employees, which means training and financial aid availability. Most of these programs include financial resources and even work-related paid training at the companies that are in need of skilled workers. Finally, there is STEM-related agency and organization help with funding. These programs are being recognized by more than just the federal and state governments for help with sustainability for the older adult learners. Other funding is coming from STEM-related agencies, such as the National Science Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Humanities, who are earmarking funding for initiatives specifically to support community colleges in their roles of closing the skills gap through CTE and STEM-related programs. Several sources to learn about the skills gap are the Association for American College and Universities and the Workplace Learning and Skills Bulletin.
In addition to the sources that Valerie listed, I was able to find a couple good things on the Chronicle of Higher Education. They had a really good video about how colleges can help their adult students, and they were able to interview someone who came through a non-traditional path as a student. And then also I was able to go on Maryville University website, and they had a whole list of additional resources for adult college students, from how to study to how to balance their time to ensure success going through their programs. And I thought these things were very helpful for anybody either looking into the field or to just wanted a little bit more information.
In addition to the sources that Valerie and Jacori mentioned, on the website for the Society for Human Resource Management, there are many tools for HR professionals as they relate particularly to the skills gap, and also when they are working with current and future employees on areas like career, skills, and training development. The website also provides a lot of resources for employees looking for training and professional development opportunities and resources themselves. The Learning House is also a good resource, and what I particularly like about this one is that they not only provide their own information and reports, but they also maintain and provide a collection of additional outside data sources. Lastly, Skills USA is a source that focuses on the skills gap and STEM and manufacturing jobs in particular. It provides research and information for current workers, career seekers, employees at every level of professional development, as well as parents and students. It provides professional development and career resources, courses, certificate programs, and skill building workshops.
Through our group's research and exploration of this issue, we came across several areas of particular interest. For me, I personally find it very interesting the reasons that adults tend to go into the education system. The reasons that I found were there are some adults who worked in non-professional jobs. There are those adults who are seeking a career change, some that have been displaced, some that are simply concerned about being displaced, and then those that are seeking promotion. I thought this was very interesting because usually when I think of adults being in the education system, I think of those who have been displaced due to jobs requiring more degrees or things of that nature, or technology. So to think about those who just simply want a career change or want a promotion going back to school was interesting to me. I also found another article that spoke about the type of things that can benefit adult learners in ways that simply going to classes won't help. So in the article, I found it very interesting that they had to create a internship that was specifically designed for adult learners because they come with different issues such as transportation or having a family or having to take care of that family financially or actually physically being there. So they had to take on tasks over the weekends or maybe overnight, or just simply be able to take things home. So I thought that was very interesting to the topic of the skills gap.
I discovered in the Fregoso et al. Article a comprehensive picture to anyone, whether they were a layperson or an academic, of the negative aspects of learning that the non-traditional over 40 adult learner faces, as well as components of their academic experience that are not as important to focus on in terms of being a barrier to their success. I also learned from the Rapchek et al. Article about the study that they presented, that they found that instructors that focused on modeling how evaluations of sources should be done and incorporated practice evaluations of source analysis without academic penalty were something that the adult learners themselves found to be of the most benefit to them, as opposed to focusing on transition skills.
For me personally, what I found really interesting regarding the issue of the skills gap is the effect that the narrative has on the issue as a whole. For example, I realized that a lot of tension and resistance to technology and the evolution of the job market is in large part contributed to the uncertainty of how to best approach and remedy the need for continued skill acquisition and attainment for workers across all spectrums of the workforce. I think eventually the dialogue surrounding continuing education and the expectation that workers need to regularly acquire new skills and abilities will become more and more commonplace and less of an area of contention. However, this is not to say that the transition to this mindset will not come without its inherent challenges and without the need for public and private industry partnerships, as well as the support of businesses and innovative approaches from higher education institutions. As professionals in higher education, it is critical that we are aware of the issue and work to continuously implement partnerships within the community and across different business sectors. It is clear that working in collaboration is going to be crucial in overcoming this deficit, but we are optimistic that it can indeed be accomplished with changing the narrative and with some innovative strategy. Thank you.